Hello friends, and welcome. This is Britt, and if you're new here, I make journaling, art, and book review videos. And today we're going to be doing a flip through of my completed 2024 planner. So this was a blank dot grid notebook that I turned into my planner and bullet journal for 2024. So let's get started. 2024 was the first year that I actually made like a handwritten planner journal for myself. And I didn't know if I was going to even show this on my YouTube channel at all when I first set this up. I had only been doing my reading journal at first on my channel. And in general, that is the more artistic journal, and this is the one that's a little simpler and easier to set up. This is the 2024 title page and year at a glance, and this color scheme, I just wanted it to be cohesive and simple for these annual spreads at the beginning of this book. So I just used this green Mildliner marker, which is right here, and a gold gel pen and just black pen. Any materials that I'm using here, of course, will be linked in the description box in case there's anything that you're interested in. The year at a glance is just little tiny calendars of the entire year so that when you're setting up your monthlies, you can come and look and see what the month looks like and which day of the week all the dates are on. Moving on to the feature log. What a feature log is a place where, let's say it's February, but I know I have a doctor's appointment in May. So I can write it on here because if it's February, I have not yet made the May monthly section yet. So in order to keep track of everything that's in the future, that's what this feature log at the beginning of the book is for. There's different ways you can set it up. You don't need to have it dated like this. I just like to do it like this. It's easier for me. But you could just have a blank space and just write down the stuff and the date next to it if you wanted to do it like that. But I like this column layout with the date all written down the side, and I can fit 6 months on the first spread and then 6 months on the second spread. Again, I just continued with that color theme. I also used this to kind of plan out the days that I was going to release YouTube videos, so that's what these brown ones are as well. And then I have this brown craft paper in here just to censor some things that are either private or that they show somebody else's name, like today I met so-and-so. So just for everybody's privacy. And I do tend to like reschedule when I release videos a lot, so this is just a very tentative thing for me to use. Oh, and one other thing that I want to mention is just my philosophy of journaling. I meant to mention that at the very beginning. I feel like sometimes when people do bullet journaling or planning, especially if they spend a lot of time doing the setup at the beginning of the month, then they feel pressure that they need to fill it all in or they need to use it constantly all the time to like make it worth it. As we go through this is a very realistic way that somebody uses a journal. Like there are a lot of empty gaps where there's like weeks that I didn't write anything in here, and that's how I use it, and that's fine. If that's how you use yours, that's totally fine too. I like to have it set up and ready to go so that if I want to use it, it's there and it's available because this is a tool for me. It's not meant to be something else that I need to do that's like pressuring me in my life. It's supposed to help me. So anyway, that's me on my soapbox about be nice to yourself and don't put pressure on yourself for things that are supposed to be helping you or that are supposed to be fun. All right, moving on. So this is just something that's a fun memory keeping spread for me, just for me personally. So you're not probably going to have this in yours, but what you could do is do this same kind of setup and just print out a photo, like a memorable photo memory of each month. A lot of people do that. For me, I was keeping a little spread of photographs of my reading journal spreads for each month. My reading journal is my main artistic journal that I spend a lot of time on every month to make intricate hand-drawn illustrations. So these are things that I completely drew by hand. And if you would like to see a flip through of this reading journal, that will be coming out sometime next week. If it's already come out by the time you're watching this video, I will link it up in the card and also in the description box so you can check that out. So if you like to see artistic stuff, I highly recommend watching that flip through. And also if you like books, because I'll be talking about my favorite books of the year in that video as well. Anyway, for this, to print these photos out, I used this HP Sprocket printer. And this is a photo printer that uses sticker paper, and these printouts are 2 inches by 3 inches. Now, the quality of this is not great. I use it because it's easy, it prints out on sticker paper. However, the colors are not very good, especially blue and green. Like this blue right here in real life is a very vibrant blue, but it comes out really muted. So the colors are really not true to life. However, if you just want to do it for some simple memory keeping, you don't need it to be really high resolution, it works. Now we're going to move on to each of the individual months in this journal. It starts with March because, as I mentioned earlier, this is the first year that I've ever made a paper planner journal for myself, and I didn't decide to do it until February, so that's why this starts with March. And I really tried to use digital planning things, you know, like my Google Calendar, online task lists, different apps to manage time, things like that. And I really wanted that to work. However, it doesn't work for me. I've found that in order for me to look at my actual task list and to check it, I need to write it on paper. So that's why I started doing this. And for the themes, these monthly themes, if we flip back here, you can see that March in my reading journal was this retro computer theme. So my idea when I was starting this, planner journal, was that it might be interesting to show you that more intricate setup in the reading journal and then use the same theme in this bullet journal in a more simplified way, so that if you liked that theme that I did, but you didn't want to spend all that time on it, or you didn't want to spend all the artistic energy to try to do it, then I would show you an easier way of doing it in here. And I did that for a couple months. However, I stopped doing that because it was starting to get too repetitive, and I thought maybe it was getting boring for people to watch, and also it was a little boring for me to make as well. So you'll see this kind of theme progression for the next couple months, but then I'll start doing different themes in each of the journals a little bit later on. So as you can see here, I made a monthly calendar on this side and the March monthly title on this side. And I just did little diskettes and floppy disks as my little decoration. I wanted to keep the colors simple when I was doing this kind of theme, so I just had an acrylic paint pen in pink and then black ballpoint pen, and then I just tested this out using craft paper to make the calendar, but it was a pain in the butt to cut out so many little squares and stick them in, so this is the only time I did that, and I drew them in the rest of the months. And these little tabs that I made over here, I just cut an extra sheet of paper out of here and cut these into this shape, and then put a little washi tape on it, and then wrote the month on with a permanent marker. So that's how I made those. So they're just glued in here. And this is a more experimental journal. So when I just wanted to try out something I'd never done before and I wasn't sure how it was going to come out, this is the journal that I tried it in. This is the first time I ever tried a Dutch door, which is when you cut some of the pages to be smaller than the normal page size. So I thought that would be cute for my little weeks here. I put the to-do list for my general life on the left side and my content making to-do list on the right side. And then to follow this computer theme, I made each of these boxes look like a folder on a computer or like a window. So I used a 6-box layout, so Monday through Friday and then Saturday and Sunday share a box because I'm not doing as much work on the weekend. I really like this way of having these two to-do lists on the side because you can see it no matter what week you're on. However, it does, if you keep doing that over and over again, you get a really wonky notebook because there's like way less page from here out than in the middle. So I do stop doing that eventually. And so each of these days I was writing out my to-do list for the day and then like any video that's coming out and like any activities that we were doing. So like on this Saturday we went and saw Dune 2 in the theater and then we had a massage on Sunday. So that's how I did that. And then these little tabs on here also are just cut out and then washi tape on them to make them look a little more finished. All right, moving on to April. This is a little canning jar with fireflies coming out. I really love this. I think that's so cute. I might end up doing that again sometime. And I chose yellow as the color for this month. And as you can see here, I started just drawing the calendar in because that was faster than cutting out the paper. And then I had a little habit tracker here, which I stopped doing and then come back to again. I'm really not good at using a habit tracker, but I keep trying for some reason, thinking that I'll do it eventually. So if you saw my setup for my 2025 journal, I put habit trackers in that. So I guess I'm optimistic about myself, but I don't think I'm actually gonna use it. And this is the same setup as the previous one to do over here, which you can see I didn't write anything. And then my content checklist is over here. And then I did my weeks the same way. And then I just have a couple little jar illustrations on the side that kind of correspond to what I drew in my reading journal. Moving on to May. My reading journal theme was origami. So in here I drew some paper cranes and little stars and I used orange. And if you have watched any of my videos previously, you will know that orange is one of my favorite colors. I love to use orange and pink in everything. I just made the nice border on these ones out of gold. And then on this side we have the monthly calendar and then another failed habit tracker. I have eat 2 meals a day as a goal for myself because I'm the type of person that doesn't remember to eat. So I just like go about my business. I'm not that interested in eating meals, and so I'll go all day and not eat a meal and then have a blood sugar crash. Okay, so I was starting to realize I was having a page problem, having all those little Dutch doors. So I changed it a little bit on this month. So the Dutch door goes the whole height of the page and just the edge is cut off so I could still see my to-do lists. And this is the first time I tried a rolling task list. I think this is really good if you're the type of person that likes to plan your week ahead. So you can just like on a Sunday night, if you're planning for the week that's coming up, you can just like dump everything out that is a task that you want to do that week. You don't need to put them in any specific order. You can just like brain dump them down. And then you can use this little week thing over here to put a dot on the day when you want to do it. Then if you end up moving it to the next day, it's a much easier. You don't have to try to like erase it and move it to a different day on like a calendar or something. Anyway, if you want to know how to set up a rolling task list, I will link some other creators' videos in the description box so they can explain it to you a little better than I can. So that's why I'm using a little more space on this. So each of these weeks has 2 pages, the task list on the left, and then the days of the week on the right. And then you can see this week, I didn't even write anything there. I stopped doing it. And then I tried to do it again this last day because I needed to write a whole bunch of book reviews. So I wrote them out there. Moving on to June. I did these little easy to draw moon jellies and used purple as my main color here. And this month I used silver as an accent and I gave up on that habit tracker and instead I put this checklist for all my YouTube videos down here instead, which is much more functional. I will use that. And this is a month where I kind of had an unexpected trip. I went to help out my family with some things. So you'll see a little bit later on here, I have a lot of blank stuff because I didn't do any work when I was on that trip. If you see the name Chai or Cosmo in here, those are my two dogs. So I didn't edit their names out for their privacy. So that's what those names are. And I did this a little bit differently. Again, I do have a Dutch door, but I put the rolling task list here. It made it smaller because I didn't need as much space as I had on the previous month, and I made the days a little bit bigger so I could fit more of my tasks in there. And I went back to putting the tabs on. So here you go. This is when I'm on the trip and I was like, I don't need to do anything specific for work right now. So I didn't fill it in, but it was there in case I needed it. All right, July is the first month where I decided to do something different than my reading journal, and I kind of went crazy with the next couple months here. I wanted to try waterfall tabs. Look how cool that is. So waterfall tabs are when you have these tabs that are like stepped back like that. And then I just put different color washi tape on each one of them. So you'll see as we flip this how that looks. I got this theme idea from my mom. Shout out to my mom. And this is buttons, as you can tell. And I used washi tape for the colored buttons and a craft paper, sticker paper for the brown ones. And I really like this one, although this color theme is not a color theme that I would normally do. I would have aesthetically liked this better had I chosen warmer colors for the buttons instead of green and blue, I think. So when you do waterfall tabs, you have increasingly more space on the pages as you go back. So you need to be a little bit more strategic of what you're putting on which pages. So this first little page that has the least amount of space, I put the monthly calendar and a little task box here. And then I started getting into the weeks. And instead of 6 boxes, I switched to 8 boxes. So Monday through Sunday, because I like to do a Monday start, and then a little note box just to make it symmetrical. So for the first 2 weeks in this month, I did these kind of horizontal boxes. And then I switched to vertical boxes. And then since I had more space, I could put some things at the bottom. So here's a little note box. And then here is my checklist for making my YouTube videos. And then on this side, I have a note box and a mood tracker. Sleeping and eating are things that I have problems with. The things that you need to live are the things that I do not do well. I'm a neurodivergent person. I am autistic and I have ADHD. So when I'm trying to think about my health and like what I can improve, those are always ones that I want to improve. But again, I'm not the best at tracking things. So this is how it turns out. Anyway, I made a little mood tracker that had little buttons and then I could color it in whatever mood I had that day, but that's August. And we move on to, oh no, that was July. This is August. This is the most time-consuming spread in our month in this entire journal, and I love how it turned out, but I spent so much time on this. And that is because I made these waterfall tabs that have a checkerboard pattern and they line up perfectly. This is so satisfying. Anyway, as you can see, this is a chest theme and I used yellow as the color because I will pop a picture up somewhere here so you can see what it looks like. This was based on the cover for Sally Rooney's book Intermezzo. I have chess pieces in this same craft paper, brown craft paper that I used over here. I cut out the pieces and then I used ballpoint pen to shade and a white acrylic paint pen to do the highlights. And then I did all this cross hatching on these columns. Like this took forever. All right, and then because I did waterfall tabs again, We have the monthly calendar, but I just made a column from 1 to 31 instead of having like a box calendar. And then my monthly tasks down here. And then starting into the weeks, again, we have horizontal boxes, 8 boxes. Another week of horizontal boxes. And then some vertical boxes. And since I had room, I added some little pawns for decoration here. And also my checklist for my YouTube videos, which I guess I didn't fill out very well that month. And then here for variety, I made these boxes 3-dimensional. And then I made a little mood tracker that looks like a chessboard. And the idea was that on all the white squares, I would fill in a little symbol for my mood. I did a decent amount, but then I gave up on that. And then on this last page, since I had so much space, I did a final decorative touch at the top. I did it the same as I did over here. And then I left this so you could still see August over here, no matter what page you were on. All right. For September, you can see that this is the first month that I tried doing collage style instead of drawing everything. And this was to make it easier on myself and not having to hand draw, so that hopefully these would take a lot less time to set up. And in theory, that is true. However, because I had never done collage before, the first couple times I did it, it did take me a really long time because I had no idea how to do it. I don't have a theme per se for some of these collage style spreads. I just, like for this one, I just picked a color theme. And so the pictures aren't necessarily related to each other, but the colors are. So I wanted warm fall colors for September. So again, I did a collage just decoratively over here. I have my monthly calendar here, and then I have a little notes box down here that it's just a piece of paper pasted in. And this is where I stopped doing waterfall tabs and Dutch doors because the journal was getting unbalanced. So, and I found that I was using way more pages than I actually needed to when I was doing that. So instead of using a full spread for a week, I started using 2 weeks on each of these spreads. So saving space that way. I like this box setup for these weeks because I can do 7 boxes and then leave 2 corners kind of free for decoration. So on this one, again, I kept this red and orange and brown theme, and I used a couple of pieces of paper that had sea life on them, or shells. And then I tried a little bit of a different setup here, like a vertical, and put mushrooms. And then I just wrote a couple of to-do things over in the corner. In order for this to work for you, you need to use it and don't be afraid to, like, quote, mess it up. So I would not be afraid, if I needed to just like write all over this. It doesn't need to stay in the boxes either. Oh, and then yeah, here's a good example of that. So during this month of September, I had a lot of things that I wanted to like figure out. So I just decided, okay, the next set of pages, I'm just gonna write what I need to write. So I made this giant master list of like house things that I need to do. I wasn't planning on doing them in September, but I wanted to just dump the list down. And so I have a long-term list of like things that I need to do here. I have a pesto recipe here. I have a list of book reviews that I need to write, that I needed to write there. And then over here, I was keeping track of which books I was reading on which day because I wasn't keeping track of that in my app like I usually did. So I was trying to keep track of it somewhere else. So that's what I mean. This is supposed to help you, and you know, don't be afraid to just like, if you need something, just like write it in there. Doesn't need to look perfect all the time. And then October, oops, there's a little piece of paper in there. I did do a little drawing for this because I needed something as a central focal point, and I didn't have anything like cut out that I wanted to use for that. So I did draw this little picture. But everything else is collage here. This is just kind of witchy, apothecary themed stuff. So I just slapped some stuff on there that I thought was appropriate for that. And the colors I'm using are again kind of an orange and red and a green. So I used this green graph paper for the calendar and as some decorative notes in a couple places. And then I did my favorite box layout here and used some mushroom and plant stickers here. Got a pumpkin, more mushrooms over here. So this is kind of a reddish themed page. And then this set of 2 weeks is more green themed. This is just skinny washi tape across the top and the bottom. And then I have some craft paper label stickers that are linked down below if you want to know where I got those. So this was a month where I needed to put 5 weeks instead of 4 weeks. That happens every once in a while. So I put this last 5th week just here as a column. And then I left this as a task area and then this as a general notes area. And then over here, this year is the first year that I participated in Inktober, which is a drawing challenge that happens every October. I made shorts every day of me drawing these. And I also, at the end of the month of October, I did a full-length video of me flipping through the sketchbook and showing you all of these sketches. So if you want to see that, that's also linked. So this was my list of the prompt for each day that I needed to draw something related to that prompt. And then I just checked them off or colored in the circle as I went through the month. And then I continued with the mushrooms and the pumpkins, and those are actually onions. All right, moving on to November. I wanted to do a completely black and white theme, and I ended up doing a bunch of drawing again and not making it faster for myself. But I did it in this doodle style, so it did take a long time, but it was kind of relaxing, meditative thing to do. And I like this contrast of having black as the background in some places and white as the background in other places, so I pasted black paper in here to do that. And I just wanted the background doodles to have a fall-related theme somehow, so I have oak leaves and acorns on this one. And then for the first 2 weeks, I have pumpkins, little doodled pumpkins. I love how these look. And the next 2 weeks here, I have kind of a snowberry theme, like those plants that keep their leaves, their green leaves in the winter and then have red berries on them. And then this last little area here, I did with mushrooms, because if you haven't noticed already, I love mushrooms. They're in both of my journals. I will use any excuse to put fungus on things, so. And then the last month of the year, December, which we were still in, so this isn't completely filled out. And for this one, what I did was I just really felt like having the entire background be black. So I pasted in black in all the pages on this one. And to do this kind of winter Christmassy wreath theme, I used colored pencil, 2 colors of green for the leaves, and then 1 color of pink for the berries, and that's it. And then I used a white acrylic paint pen to do the outlines of everything, and I love how this looks. And I used a little pink graph paper here as a little note area, and I have not done either of those tasks yet, so they're still there. I just put all 4 weeks on the same spread here because I knew I probably wasn't going to use this as much in December. And then for the decoration, I put my little garlands on the side. And then this final section, I just didn't really have a specific idea of what to use it for, but I just wanted space to be able to write down some things if I needed to. And for the decoration on this side, I had the little sprigs kind of poking out from behind. And the seasonal depression is getting me a little bit here, December, so I am using this mood tracker just to kind of keep track of where things were. I felt really bad that first week of the month, but I'm starting to feel better now. That is my entire personal planner bullet journal for 2024. And thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you so much. This is the end of my very first year on YouTube. I've had an amazing time. All right, I'm gonna flip back to the beginning and just do a final flip through of everything real quick. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you'll join me again in the future to see some of the other things that we create in 2025. It should be a lot of fun. You can also check me out on my other social media channels, Instagram, Substack, all those things. Those links are also in the description box. Don't forget to also join me next week for a flip through of my completed 2024 reading journal, and also some discussion of my favorite books of the year. And also my new setup for 2025 for my reading journal will also be coming out soon as well. I am hoping that all of you have an amazing, happy new year, wherever you are. Always be kind to yourself, take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.